and half of the sample were healthy controls. And so what happens in the task, the investor gets $20. They have to invest in the trustee any amount of dollars. Whatever they invest gets tripled on the way. And the trustee can then decide how much of the investment they want to give back to the trustee. And you play this 10 times over. And that's important because what we see over these 10 rounds is a relationship building between the investor and the trustee. Whatever happens in round 1 is going to affect what's going to happen in round 2. It's going to affect what's going to happen in round 3, and so on. And so I could ask you, what do you think happens when borderline patients are in the trustee role, which is the vulnerable role in this game? And many of you will be able to predict that when a low offer is given by the investor, and that typically happens in the game, at some point in the game, the investor is trying their luck, and they give a low offer to the trustee. What healthy trustees do in that setting, say they get 5 out of $20, which is considered a low offer, so they have $15. They actually give all of those $15 back to the investor. They send a signal to the investor that says, hey, what happened? I detected a rupture in this relationship. We were doing very well so far, and suddenly you give me a low offer. Now, come on, let's play ball. They send a signal back to the investor that says, come on, what's going on? Look, I'm going to give you all my money. If you have to give me back next round, please give me back so that we can get back on track. Borderline patients don't do that. They're punitive when they play the next round. Of course, after they then don't give money back to the investor, the game falls apart and both parties lose. So the overall investment across the game is much lower when the patient starts being punitive to the investor. And so here we can see just so we call that coaxing your partner back into the game, sending signals that we are still friends and I want to repair this relationship. And we see here, you could see rounds into the future in the investment. The blue one is when no coaxing, both parties lose when there's no coaxing taking place. Both parties win when there is coaxing taking place. Now, what was interesting, it was an fMRI study, so while the subjects played this game, they were in the fMRI scanner, and what you see in the borderline patients over there is no insular activation when there's a low offer being sent. So the insular is a part of the brain that helps us integrate information. It monitors how we are feeling with new information coming in. It's one of the roles of the insular. And so the idea here was that the insular is not helping a borderline patient to detect the rupture in the relationship and repair it. And so we've interpreted this potentially. So we don't know what the borderline patient is thinking in this moment. But we can imagine that the borderline patient is thinking something like that. How dare you send me a low offer? You are trying to be mean to me, and I am going to show you that I cannot be treated in this way. So you can hear the hypermentalizing versus the mentalizing response. Hey, what happened here? I'm going to test something new out to see. I'm going to gather more data about what's going on here. So that's kind of starting to think about a neurobiological correlate to this. Here you can just see that the offers that the borderline patients gave also correlated with the interpersonal trust scores that borderline patients gave. So they self-reported less interpersonal trust towards their partners. So here's a fourth study, then taking this idea of hypermentalizing into a treatment context. We're coming a little bit more further down on the translational spectrum. And here we did 4 tasks. So there's the movie task, there's a vignettes task that Iona Fruber developed. There's an empathy task there in the middle, and then the eyes test. And you can see I've kind of tried to put it on these poles of the mentalizing map. And so out of all of these tasks, it was only the hypermentalizing subscale of the mask that was sensitive to treatment. So here you see admission and discharge scores on the hypermentalizing measure, and the blue line are the borderline adolescents, and the red line is the psychiatric controls. Everybody gets better, thankfully, good news for the men in the clinic. Borderline patients get better at a steeper slope because they start up higher. And when we take the change score of hypermentalizing drop and we correlate that with the change score in borderline symptoms, we see that that is significant. So beginning to suggest that hypermentalizing could be part of the picture that is driving this drop in borderline symptoms. The other tasks just didn't perform like this. The other tasks were not sensitive to change. So if we started to think, what is it that we're trying to affect in our treatment, we are saying that we really want to try and affect implicit mentalizing. We're trying to affect hypermentalizing in our treatment. None of the other types of mentalizing seems to be that sensitive to change or that critical in borderline treatment. We're also trying to look at this in other disorders. Is this specific to change in borderline versus mood disorders, anxiety disorders, externalizing disorders? And we didn't find hypermentalizing being significant or important, relevant for these disorders in the way that it was for BPD. All right, so at that point we were ready to kind of put together a model by which we make hypermentalizing a central component. And I don't want to intend to say that hypermentalizing is all that counts. It just seems to be one of the most direct pathways to understand mentalizing impairment in BPD. And so we published this model by which we say that a patient is potentially confronted with an emotionally intense interpersonal event and attachment context, where there's a lack of integration across cognitive modalities. And this, a lot of mentalizing research has shown that when the modalities increase, when people have to integrate across different cognitive modalities, borderline patients start to struggle. When you just give them the eye region of the face, like the CBT, they don't distinguish themselves in any particular way. You will be familiar with Eric Furtak's study, which actually showed superiority in borderline patients in reading the eye region of the face. So after there's this lack of integration across cognitive modalities, there's a reliance on controlled explicit social cognitive reasoning in contexts where automatic mentalizing is required, or vice versa. In the meantime, we see escalating emotion dysregulation, errors in interpretation, hypermentalizing, the attribution of mental states to other people in the absence of evidence. And so this cycle continues. So you see there the escalating emotion dysregulation, and I want to start building this into the model in a little bit more explicit way, and share with you some of the empirical work that we've done to try and integrate emotion dysregulation into this model, because as Blaise will tell you later on, DBT works for borderline, and it is because we have these two mechanisms that are working in concert together with one another. And there is, of course, emotion dysregulation also in the Fonagy model of BPD. We see emotion dysregulation featuring prominently in the biosocial theory of Marshall Linehan. This is Sheila Crowell's adaptation of Linehan's model that was also published in Development in Psychopathology in 2009. The other factor that I've not spoken about empirically a lot yet is attachment disruption. So attachment disruption seems to moderate this relationship in the Fonagy model between emotion dysregulation and hypermentalizing. And again, in Marshall Linehan's model, we see the caregiver context being very important. She talks about invalidation of child emotions, inadequate coaching of emotion, negative reinforcement of aversive emotional expression, and ineffective parenting due to poorness of fit and insufficient primary resources. So we see attachment and then the interaction between mentalizing and emotion dysregulation being put forward in all of these developmental models of BPD. And so here's a study that we did where we had 259 patients, mean age of 15, 63% of them were females, and we did with them the child attachment interview. So those of you that's familiar with the adult attachment interview, works exactly the same way, but it is adapted for children and adolescents, and so you code it in the same way, in this case on 9 subscales, that then gives you your security classifications. And also the coherent subscale, which is really the core of attachment security. How coherent is the adolescent able to talk about very difficult situations, and we know with the reflective function scale we can code those attachment responses for mentalization. So we use the coherence subscale here, and we put it into this multiple mediation model with hypermentalizing and emotion dysregulation. And what you see is both hypermentalizing and emotion dysregulation mediate the pathways to borderline from attachment security, but hypermentalizing do that stronger than emotion dysregulation. Again, suggesting that it's potentially driving the emotion dysregulation. Again, cross-sectional model. In the treatment context, this is a study we've not yet published, but we're preparing for publication right now. We wanted to, again, look at emotion dysregulation, change in emotion dysregulation as a treatment, the mechanism by which we have reduction in borderline symptoms from admission to discharge. And emotion dysregulation worked beautifully. It's absolutely a mechanism of reduction in borderline symptoms. But then we also wanted to see if attachment security moderated that mediation. So this is a moderated mediation analysis, and it does. So that the adolescent's coherence affects the change score in the emotion dysregulation, such that an adolescent who is securely attached was able to make use of the therapy more effectively to have a larger drop or increase in emotion dysregulation, which could then mediate the admission discharge borderline scores. This is just giving you the standard deviation below the mean, at the mean, standard deviation above the mean, and you can see the effect size becomes much bigger in terms of how much this DIRS is able to mediate admission to discharge borderline symptoms when there's high attachment coherence. So this suggested to us that even if you are doing DBT and you're focusing, emotion dysregulation is the focus of your treatment because we know that that works, you're going to have larger effect sizes if you also take a relational approach. And then the question is, how do you build the relational approach explicitly, adequately into your therapeutic approach? So that was an important finding for us. All right, I'm going to switch gears now a little bit to intervention. And to recap, I want to kind of recap what we think hypermentalizing is. So social cognitive deficits are apparent only under conditions of high arousal. Therefore, patients with BPD should not demonstrate across the board social cognitive deficits, but only during tasks that are emotionally loaded. So this will explain some of the mixed results in mentalizing research where they do mentalizing tasks and people do just fine with BPD. It has to be under conditions of high arousal. Social cognitive deficits are apparent only under conditions that require integration across different cognitive modalities. We expect individuals with BPD to do well in tasks that access only one modality, but poorly on tasks that require integration of multiple modalities. Social cognitive deficits in BPD reflect the lack of integration between social cognitive symptoms that subserve implicit, unreflective mentalizing versus symptoms that subserve more reflective thought. So they use explicit control processes when more automatic processing is required and vice versa. It's the mismatch between the mentalizing strategy used and the context that requires it. Individuals with BPD do not suffer from deficits per se, but their social cognitive style is characterized by over-attribution of mental states to others and confusion or conflation of own mental states with those of the other, thus hypermentalizing. So how do we define mentalizing? We define it as an excessive theory of mind, like Isabel Diebeck would. Social cognitive processing that involves making assumptions about other people's mental states that go so far beyond observable data that the average observer will struggle to see how they justify. Over-attribution of mental states to others and their likely misinterpretation. Overactive and exaggerated resonance with the mental states of others due to confusion between self and other mental states. So this is just an excerpt from a session with an adolescent patient with BPD. This is a pseudonym, Gina, that we published with Danish colleagues. So the therapist said, so tell me about the difficult situation when you met with your ex-boyfriend. It seems to me that it was a bit frustrating for you to meet with him. Is that right to put it that way? And Gina says, he met with me just to see that I was still in pain. So she's immediately making an attribution. We don't know if her boyfriend is an awful person, but she is not. There's no flexibility here in what his intentions was. The therapist said, what was it like to meet with him? Gina says, awful. I mean, I spent 2 hours in hell. He kept telling me about his life, and that he's going out, and he's lots of new friends. So annoying. I hate him. And he doesn't respect me, just wants to bug me. So the therapist says, that doesn't sound nice. Did you feel anything in particular in that situation? I fucking told you I hate him. She's getting frustrated with the therapist now who's not mentalizing her very well. What is it that you don't get? The therapist says, wow, it seems to me that you are affected with what happened there. Sorry, it wasn't my intention to annoy you. And here she starts hypermentalizing the therapist. Gina says, you all say you are sorry, but it's a lie. John, the ex-boyfriend, says he's sorry that we could not stay together. Bullshit. He's not sorry about anything. Lisa, her contact at the institution, says she wants to help me and tries to understand me all the time. She's not trying to understand anything or help anything. You and all this mentalizing. The therapist said, hold on. So we call that pause and rewind in MBT. Hold on for a second, Gina. This is going really fast and I can't quite figure it all out. Can we please pause for a second and look what happened here? And Gina says, I don't want to pause anything. I know what you're up to. You want to blame me, tell me it's my own fault, that I have to work with myself, that we should try and look at this together. And she makes a face, no way, you obviously don't want to help me. That is clear, you just want to talk. I need action, teleological mode. Lisa doesn't like me, I know that for a fact, and Carl, the head of the institution, ignores me on purpose. So a clear example of a session where there is a breakdown in mentalization and expressing itself in hypermentalizing. Alright, so we call that the pretend mode. If we think about the 3 pre-mentalizing modes, there's a lot of mentalizing language being used, but it somehow doesn't capture reality. Neither in terms potentially of the boyfriend, and certainly not in terms of what's happening in the room with the therapist. So I'm just going to show you a clip of the pretend mode with Anthony Bateman and an active patient, and then we'll talk a little bit more about that.
So, it sounds like things have been going reasonably well then.
Yeah. Yeah, even despite all that, actually.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I said at the beginning, that's what, I feel pretty okay. I feel very different to how I was here. And that's nice to actually be able to track my progress and change.
How did it come about, that change?
Well, I think a lot of it is, the sessions we've had, because you've really helped me see things in a way that I probably wouldn't have, thought about, or I wouldn't have been given time.
How did I do that? You give me space to think about things, and you don't disagree with everything I say. Mm-hmm. So that's quite unusual for me. So I think that's really helps, and I think even with what's happened this week, knowing how I would have felt with that probably 2 months ago, or even 2 months ago, compared to now, I'm really positive with that. And I know that if so it's being managed because I seem quite nice?
Well, not just because you've been nice, but you're a nice person.
I'm not sure everyone would agree with